Welcome back to the In and On podcast. Today, I am joined by someone who I deeply respect, someone who has built one of West Australia's leading real estate businesses, not just through results, but through consistency, great leadership, and an unwavering commitment to people. Sean Hughes is the co-founder and director of Haven Property, and over the past 2 decades has built an outstanding reputation as both a high-performing agent and a leader of a high-performing teams. Today, we're going to be going beyond the market, beyond the metrics, and explore what really drives sustained success. His operating system, the habits that underpin performance, what he's learned about leadership, and why investing in people may be the greatest competitive advantage in real estate. I'd like to welcome Sean Hughes to the In and On podcast. Yeah, and if I look at it from like an athlete's performance point of view, I'm going like there's 3 things we can control always, regardless of market conditions, regardless of the opponent, weather, whatever. We control effort, intentions, and mindset.
Yeah.
And if we look at those 3 things across being a great high-performing agent consistently, the market's still going to play an impact
100%.
on the way you turn up. And there's only so many houses to sell. But my message to him would be come back to fundamentals, which is effort, intentions, mindset. So effort, you can still turn up and deliver high workload against your intentions for the agent you want to be or the agency you want to run. Then there's the mindset, which is the mountain is the way. Like we go towards this, but we don't try and climb to the top of Everest today. We move Boulder 1,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us try and conflate. And this is that whole, I heard a quote last week, which is complexity fails and simplicity scales.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just front of mind every single day this week. I'm with my team. I'm like, too complex, guys, simplify.
Yeah.
I reviewed my program last night and I was like, it's too much in this. It's trying to do too much because the answer is the high performing habits of an agent.
It's just simple stuff.
Should be 3 sessions because I'm doing 1 session, but they should bake in this stuff.
Yeah.
And they should walk out with clarity on what every minute of their day should look like.
And that seems so simple when you break it down into that. And I suppose for those guys who are in the, they can't see the label when they're in the jar sort of scenario, but like because they've had this pre-contextual relationship with I turned up and I had energy and effort and intent and everything and I earned $3 million or $5 million. Now I'm turning up with the same energy and intent, if not more.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a hell of a lot less on my group certificate. It's like, well, what's going wrong? And it just really is, as you say, that external thing of the market,
Yeah.
which you can mitigate a bit, but you can't really do a great deal about.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating, particularly if you've built your life based on those numbers of old and you're not really doing anything to deserve getting different numbers now.
Well, I've seen some of Tom Panos' stuff and he's so great, right? He talks direct to camera and he's just honest and raw.
Yeah.
And I love his stuff because you learn just generally what's happening from an auctioneer's perspective to an agent, like whatever, right? And he was talking about having no one even registered for his auctions.
I know, six auctions, no registered bidders. Hasn't happened in like 20 years or something.
But he kind of then just said, stay the course. I think his message at the end was kind of just hold on, work hard, keep grinding, keep looking for the next win. I don't know. I guess that was one of the questions I wanted to ask. Was like the market, like the work that I do is like if it's an athlete and we're talking about having loss and loss and loss, you can quickly become in that headspace of I'm not worthy of being here.
Yep.
When I was consulting with the Western Force, we worked out when they left the comp and then got brought back in the comp with Twiggy, they would always enter their 22 attacking zone, but then fumble the ball.
Right.
And what we worked out from a mental skills point of view was like they didn't feel they deserved to be in the comp. It's like we're playing the Crusaders. We're about to enter the attacking zone. We're 5 points down. We could win this.
Yeah.
We don't quite deserve to win this. Close enough is good enough. And just being here is validation of our presence, our identity. I did that with North Beach on the weekend. They dropped the ball in the last minute to win the game. And I sort of challenged a couple of their leaders after the game. I was like, you guys didn't feel you deserved to beat South Perth, who were right on top of the ladder, did you? And they're like, I don't even know why we couldn't score that. But that's the mental block for those high-performing teams and athletes. And I wonder how that translates to agents who are used to doing so well and then get into this place where the market doesn't offer them the gifts that it has.
Yes.
And now do they play in this headspace where it's like how do I change that?
Yeah.
What's been something you've learned?
I suppose it's how used you get to the climate that you're in. I was having this discussion with someone the other day about if you live in Vegas and it's like 42 degrees every single day. And I think Shane was telling me this story as well. All of a sudden you get a 32-degree day and everyone scrambles for the jumpers. And it's just because you're climatized to that.
Yeah.
Like this day's freezing, but in reality, 32 is still a really warm day.
Yeah.
And so the Perth market's probably a little bit like that. But from the business side of things, if you get used to doing 100 transactions a year and you've done it for the last 5-10 years, like the East Coast guys at the moment, all of a sudden that goes to 20 and you're like, how do I handle this? I think I see the guys who are in that environment get climatized to it, which is, and that's lots of people as well. I was having a good conversation with someone the other day who's come retired out of business, basically got the shits on. They're like, I've been in it for 20 years. It's a bit of Groundhog Day. It was a good Groundhog Day, but all they really wanted to do was be on the other side of the fence. I deserve this. I want to be able to retire and enjoy my life. And how great would it be if I just get to sit mocktails on the beach every day and not do anything. And it took them probably in the tail end of their career inside the business that they were in, took them that sort of last 2-3 years of being a bit shitty with it in order to fully act on it and pull the trigger and eject out of the company. And they did 6-8 months out of that company, and now they're back inside that company working again. But they're there by choice.
Yeah.
And the mindset, they just turn up every single day. They said, I wish I'd just quit basically 5 years before so I could come back to it with the enjoyment that I've got now. Yeah. So, probably with the market that it's been, it's like really hard to be able to have enjoyed it because you got so acclimatized to it and you're so used to it and it's going to be like this forever. Yeah. Then it changes and all of a sudden that rug gets pulled out from you. But in 3 years' time or 4 years' time, you could be going, well, how good is it now? But you can't see that either. So a lot of that is reflective and a lot of that is rear view mirror stuff. And that's the reason why the windscreen is much bigger than the rear view mirror. Yeah. But it's, I think in regards to your question there, it's just probably being grateful, knowing that anything can change at any point in time and probably taking those little small wins as they come for what they are and taking the moment to enjoy it when it happens and be in it.
Yeah, there's an agility that you're talking about here, which, there's a skill versus will matrix that also comes to mind. So we can have an agent who's very high skill but low will. So they're very good with their strategy. They're great at their listing presentations, but perhaps just can't be, like, they're not really in the flow at the moment. Yeah. Same with if you've got a great athlete or someone like that, you just need to work out what motivates them to get them back up to that level. Those with high skill and high will are the ones we want to try and nurture and hold on to and retain in our teams. We want to bring that out. You mentioned the mirror window. That came up when you were talking as well, because I think at times like this, maybe it's a good chance for us to spend more time looking in the mirror and rather than through the window. Yes. And what I mean by that is that there's a great chance for us to take an opportunity to look at this agility piece. The market's giving me this chance to be grateful of what's happened. Yeah. And I say that word in particular, we were supposed to do this podcast 2 weeks ago, right? Yeah. And I was in hospital with emergency appendicitis. Yep. That turned into sepsis and was there for a whole week. And I felt terrible for missing. And I was so angry and upset with not being able to catch up. We had this plan for ages. And then I had a couple other things I was super looking forward to. I couldn't do it. Yeah. I had to sit in a room and wait for someone every 4 hours to come and give me antibiotics. Yeah, and sitting still would have been great for you. But I didn't need to be there because they had left me 15 hours for surgery that I knew that this thing was appendicitis. I was on the plane back from Sydney and this thing was like bubbling. And I'm like, something's not right. Yep. Going to hospital. It's there, mate. They're doing the old tests for nausea. They think it's a virus. They do the scan. Okay, your appendix is about to blow up. It was about 10 hours later they then did surgery. By that point, your liver's all covered in infection and everything. So now you have to clean up and send home. Sepsis kicks in. You're now there a week. So obviously I'm frustrated and angry. But my mentor rang me and asked me about gratitude and reminded me gratitude and humility. And those two words hit home really hard when I was sitting there. Particularly when you got sepsis and 9 times out of 10 you probably die. Yeah. And I was like, if I wasn't here, you're gone. Like, this is a quick road to the end, right? Anyway, it reminded me of gratitude. I then had to sit and really play in my headspace around what is the ask that I'm being here for?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people who would be listening to the message here going, I've been great. I wrote a mill last year and I had some great systems in place, but now I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And I get to see this a lot, and the gratitude is the keystone for what comes next.
Yeah.
It has to be anchored in something, right? And I would just ask whether you're spiritual or not. I do think everyone needs to have some sort of daily operating practice where they give thanks to something bigger than themselves.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that's really probably going to be put under pressure in the market that we're moving towards. Maybe not is in WA as much because there aren't losses like there are, like true losses. At the moment, you have conversations with people and they go, well, I thought it was going to be 2.5 mil and now I'm taking 2. So, and those numbers are not relevant for everyone, but I'm taking a loss of 500,000. It's like, hang on, you bought it for $1 million 4 years ago. So it's just not that you're making 500 grand loss. You're actually just making 1 mil, 100% return on investment in 4 years rather than 1.5 million. So, I think when you've got East Coast and stuff like that, when you've got people who bought for 1.2 and they're selling for 800 or 900, you got true losses in there where they don't have the ability to be able to find that additional money, etc. So I think anchoring to your why is going to be really important for a lot of people, mainly because it's their energy. I don't see too many agents in this day and age. It's a people-to-people business. And so there's a level of authenticity that people have. They're not robotic. I'll just churn and burn and do deals and stuff like that. There might be the odd one, but the majority of agents out there are great human beings first, and they actually genuinely care. And that's where the whole the energy levels have been so great, because you're riding in on your white horse and you're going, I know that you wanted 1.5, but here's your 1.7, and like everyone's celebrating. There's just such great energy. So aside from the money that you get rewarded for all the hard work that agents do, there's actually a tangible emotional reward and a feel good that carries you through the little shit stuff that you need to do. And so as that starts to dissipate in the market, where people are getting less and there's no joy as much that comes out, for a business that is based around an energy thing, you really need to anchor your own energy to a why, or to be able to drive what fills your cup, I think, because it's going to get that energy is going to get taken from you from the transaction and from other people because of their circumstances. There are more divorces, more separate. When the market's humming, there's less divorces, there's less, it's just everyone's happy because a lot of things are masked by the fact that everyone's making a ton of money. When it changes and all of a sudden it gets put to the measure a little bit more, then I think that those things are brought to light and things that were hidden as a problem are raised. And so there just seems to be more angsty, conversations that tend to happen, and particularly around a deal, there's less, less joy and more argy-bargy in it. So, I think that you need to really, a lot of the really good agents will work on what is their why are they doing it, what's their goal out of it other than just making money, and what fills their cup from an energy point of view, so that they can go and replenish that when other people are depleting it from them.
Yeah, wonderful point. I don't know how many people I ask, what do we do? What are we here for? And the answer is a blank face.
And what do you do for you? Like agents are so unselfish with their time. You should see it. They just put everyone first. It really is a service industry, and they just serve everyone else first. And they really, the amount of, and like I've been there as well, overweight, paying myself last out of everything that I ever did. And whether that's eating, whether that's drinking, whether that's not getting to the gym, whether that's not surfing enough or playing golf, or more to the point, doing it and feeling guilty when you do it as well. You're almost like, why the hell did I fucking go and do this? Like, I just felt shit the whole time I was here. You go out for a surf in the day and you're just thinking, oh my God, my phone must be ringing, blowing up, and just annoys your time. So it's really hard for people, I think, to be able to properly switch off and not feel guilty in it. Again, it's just that servitude sort of business that you're in, and or go away on holidays as well. And, I see we got a lot of teams at the moment, which is great because it gives that sustainability for people to be able to have the longevity in the industry and replenish their energy and go away whilst the business still runs. But prior to that, there were a lot of husband and wife teams, or they're just one-man bands, etc. And you see them go away and miss out on 2 or 3 primo listings. It's Murphy's Law, always the way. The ones that you've been waiting on, you miss whilst you're away. The 10 grand holiday with the family that is now $20,000 or $30,000 these days turns into like $130,000 and a blow up with the wife or the husband because if only I'd been there, I would have got I would have got those listings, and then that stops them from going away again in the future because you have that experience that you don't really want to have again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. It's a great point. So many lines of inquiry, but I do want to formally introduce and welcome you to the show. Sean, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
it is actually an honor to be across the chair, and I have been looking forward to chatting with you for a long time.
Great to be here.
Yeah. And I know we've spent a lot of time working together and spending time with your team. So I really just wanted to share a lot about the person behind the performance today and try and give some insights into what has built you to this place that you are now, where you're leading a big team, having great success at Haven, but also leading a family and working on yourself. Some of the improvements I've seen over the last 12 months for you personally have been fantastic. And so there's a lot to share today. But I want to start off with a question just sort of broadly about inner performance, and that is, when I look at your background and having known your background for a long time, you grew up in a high-performing family, right?
Yeah.
Your parents are high-performing. Your mum's a great high-performing agent, and your dad, one of the highest-performing sporting people in Australian history. And then you've gone on to be a high-performing sporting person yourself, representing the state in surfing. You're then a fantastic agent, now leading a really high-performing team doing great numbers. I'd love to know what sort of sharpened your focus around that inner game.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably something that was just always inherently there, that was probably fostered as a bit of a flame through mum and dad. If you're going to do something, you may as well have a swing at it and do it properly. I just find that whether that is good or bad for me, it's all sort of really all or nothing. I'm either doing something or I'm not. I really seldom see that. Like, I wouldn't go and play golf, but I play 3 holes.
Yeah.
For instance, like if I'm going to go surf, I want to go surf and surf really well. Yeah. It's just anything that I've always wanted to do. I just prefer to really get into it and do it properly. So, with the exception of playing the flute, I never really got into that too well. And that just makes the sort of sense to me, So it's probably a little bit of the same about the way that I eat and train and stuff like that. I sort of don't like, I'll have 2 days a week where I might do good, and then I'll have 1 day where I'll be bad with my eating or training, etc. It's more like I'll just be ruthless with my training for like 2 weeks straight and really, really diligent with what I'm eating, or then I'll fall off the bandwagon and I'll eat pizza 2 nights in a row or something like that, and drink too many beers with the boys. And so it's very, very polarizing, I suppose, just in the way of my personality. And that's just always seems to work out for me. And a lot of people have always said that there's, that you got to have more balance. But I think for me, just the way that I work is that the balance is the imbalance. And, that does create a bit of a high and a low. There's definitely ups and downs in that. But like we were just having a bit of a chat before, you don't really appreciate the highs unless you have the lows. Like, I feel it would be quite boring life if it was just always consistent. And like there's great traits in having consistency when it's training and all that sort of stuff. Consistency isn't a bad word, but it's more probably about the fact of the monotony of just not having highs and lows and ups and downs and being able to appreciate them, because it would be quite boring, I think, if everything was the same day in and day out. And, you look at real estate, even though the basics might be there, you've got to do X amount of calls, and it's more about you've got to meet more people and speak to them about real estate in essence. Yeah. But every single one of those people are different. Every single person that you meet is always different, and every house that you go to is always different. And so there's if you were going to a cubicle at an office every single day and just being on the phone and speaking to the same person every single day, or going and praising the same house every single day, like that monotony, I think would create a whole heap of boredom. So I think the consistency in doing the work is the important thing, but the variance in what that work is and the people that you meet and surround and everything gives you that difference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always worked out quite well for
Mm-hmm.
me. Everything's always sort of worked out well for me. Even the stuff that's gone bad, at the time you just think, fuck, what have I done to deserve this?
Yeah.
And then like 6 months, like that rear view mirror thing, 6 months down the track, you're going, like, how lucky am I that happened to me? And you just end up falling on your feet somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether that's just trusting the process or trusting, the fact that life's just going to be all right and be okay and it's going to be great. But it's always been the way it's happened.
Yeah, it's a great point. My mentor really challenged me on this recently when I was thinking, sometimes in business you can have bumper months and have like you're talking before, you can make a lot of extra cash and you're like, this is great. I'm going to think about trust funds and whatever.
Yeah.
And then other months you're like, how's this going to work? Where's the next bit coming from? Usually when the purse strings are tightened up due to maybe end of financial year or start of financial year or whatever.
Yeah.
Clients. And then you kind of like really that anxiousness kicks in and you're like, well, I've got to double down.
Yeah.
But the great thing is they say like the performance of you now will be reflected in 6 months.
Yes.
The wins are not at the time. It's like that lag effect.
Yeah.
And I found that especially with agents, like we can change certain habits and behaviors or routines of an agent, but it'll take a couple of months to start to see the benefits.
Yeah.
The listings and them sort of really feeling positive and strong about
Which is
themselves.
hard because you don't really get that instant reward.
Yeah.
So you don't, it's probably a bit like, you leave a puppy dog at home, right? And it chews the leg at 9:30 in the morning after you've left for work. It chews the leg off the grand piano, and you come home at 5:30 and you belt it for doing that because you've turned up and you see it, and they're like, like they've completely forgotten that happened at 9:30. Yes. They're just like, what did I do in the last 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So I think if you don't have that immediacy result, it's hard to link the action with the great outcome because the great outcome comes so far down the track.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's good. There's so many different lines of inquiry again on this one, but what I am interested in, maybe a tip or a technique that, so your natural default style consistency is, I think you look at consistency different to what others would see consistency. If I'm on a bodybuilding program or campaign, that's 9 months of every day chicken, rice, broccoli.
Yeah.
Right? And that gets the result on stage 9 months later. But if you're doing a fire mode consistently every 2 hours, every morning of lock-in airplane mode on the phone, I'm just going to do my calls or my project work or my assignment or whatever I need to do that's on that task list, high priority work, then that's also consistency, but in a shorter time period.
Yes.
How would you said before you rock up to different houses, let's say 5 houses back to back.
Yep.
And you've got to pitch and change your style to suit the customer or the client.
Yep.
Is there a process that you go through keeping that idea of consistent, high level, high service, great quality, because that's your important value? Is there a process you go through to set yourself up for that?
I used to, Chris Helder used to run that third space thing really quite well. Yep. And for a while there, I used to run that as best as I could when turning up at home as well. So you wouldn't bring work home with you. But, again, going back to, I suppose, any sort of presentation, whether it's an initial appraisal or whether it's an actual pitch for business, is an imprinting of energy. Like really, if you need less time in the third space to get yourself mentally ready if you've done all the work beforehand. And that work is actually on the selfish work on yourself. So I knew that I would never turn up as good if I was carrying extra weight or if I'd had too many wines the night before or if I'd eaten shit the night before, etc. Whether I knew it or not, that would just result in a more sluggish, not care as much sort of a thing. But God, when I'm on, I'd feel like I'm unbeatable when I'm on. And a lot of that has to do with what I do for myself as a consistency from that point of view. Right. So, but yeah, I think particularly if they're really important ones that you want, I think that there's a level of being that chameleon, so that you match, the person and what they're looking to do business in, what style of way they want to do it, what's important to them. And I think that's probably pretty hard for males in general. Females are unbelievably good listeners. Men don't traditionally listen or pick up on the cues, or they're too busy talking about why they're there to pitch, which is I'll give you all my, particularly if they really want something and they're really punching into that next, like, when you're sort of there and you're arrived, you end up probably being just a little bit more of yourself, and people will either like that and buy into that, or they won't. And there's an element of authenticity about that, because you're just like, well, you're going to buy me and the way that I am, because that's going to be something that you like, or you're not. And I'm okay with that, because then you're not my person, or you're not my people, or you want something else that's going to be more important to you.
Yeah.
And like, that's not like I don't give a shit. And I'm not saying that that's me, because there's lots of things that I really want to win sometimes. But when you're in that I want to win it, you end up over talking, I think, more so, and listening less.
Yep.
And you can't diagnose to be able to help them if you haven't asked for what their problems and symptoms are. So I think making a conscious effort, and that's where, in the past, over the years, having a female like mum there really helped me to be able to learn when to just shut up and listen, and when to take a breath, or when to ask a question, because you'd hear yourself talking too much, sort of like right now.
Don't be silly. No, so again, great insights. Like, momentum is, I love the idea that if you want to build momentum as an athlete, you look for moments and you want to stack wins together. And confidence, the psychology of confidence is you stack small wins to build momentum. So moments build momentum. The Richie McCaw rule that I teach is like, you build momentum on winning this little moment by executing the smallest play but best in the world.
Yeah.
With no fancy offloads or flick passes. If it's an AFL context or an AFL player we're playing with, it's get your hands on the ball and execute. Get it out of your hands as quick as possible. Do it 5 times as fast as you can, and watch how that feeling transforms in your body.
Yes.
So with the agent, I was working with one guy, and he was really struggling with the way he talked about himself when he would lose a listing or spoken poorly on the phone with a potential client. And the idea was that we had 10 warm numbers or past sales that had a positive experience that he would immediately dial when that feeling came in his body.
Yep.
And takes, like you just mentioned before, it takes a bit of work to understand your response to pressure. But in that moment, he would then call 2 or 3 people, change the whole internal feeling in his body, and then go and make the next phone call that's perhaps more of a cold lead or someone that he's chasing up or following up on for the 3rd or 4th time.
And that's probably the unique thing with with a commission-based sales agent, like you were talking before, in regards to the pressure. Some people react differently to that pressure, and so you can have a good win and you have a good series of months back to back, and then all of a sudden it goes quiet, and you're like, how are we going to make this work now? And that that can really put a fire under people, or it can send them in the other direction and they just capitulate.
Yes.
So it's hard to be in a commission-based industry where being in that shit, I don't know how we're going to pay rent next month, or I don't know how we're going to pay school fees, etc. And that doesn't ignite you further in order to just compel you into doing more calls and more of the basics on what you need to do. If it sends you the other way, it's not a good industry to be in.
What I like about your style with the Haven team is that you spend a lot of one-on-one time with the agents, and I've watched you work. And so people who don't know your ethic, they don't see the amount of effort you put in. And when I say effort, it's intentional effort. It's people first, people focused leadership. And your mum's actually the same. Like when I first got to know her, we bought our house and she was the selling agent for our house, right? And she was an authentic agent. That's why we liked the process. But when I watch you, I know you work one-on-one with your agents, care about their development. How would you help? What's something that you would tell them if they're starting to demonstrate these behaviors, like the anxiousness around sales and performance? How do you bring them just back down to zero and restart?
Well, the best thing is to not get there to start off with, if we can, and really teaching them or training them and helping them in order to be able to, a guy that I used to do a fair bit of coaching with before in the past said, Hughes, you will never ever sleep good unless you've got sleeping money. And I was like, what's sleeping money? What are we talking about? He's like, whatever that number is, if you've got it in the safe or it's there whether it's a couple of months of mortgage or something like that. He said, you just operate it. You get to that point, you know that you've got that buffer. Something changes in you mentally where you're not worrying about month to month, week to week, etc. And having that buffer, I think that sleeping money does really help you sleep well at night. So, you know, I think there's a lot of coaching that goes into understanding net numbers versus gross numbers, you know, and so there's just, you know, like it because there is such a big gross number in real estate, and then you've got agency splits and you've got tax and you've got costs of running your own business and everything like that. You know, like it's amazing. Even people who haven't run a business before don't understand that there's super and payroll tax and there's insurances and everything like that. You know, the amount of comments that I hear about people going, man, that guy running that business, he must be absolutely killing it. Or he made, you know, even that business that we were talking about the other day had 1.2 mil of gross revenue, but they're spending 600,000 a month on advertising. And so everyone
don't know those numbers.
And if you don't, you look at it from a distance, it's easy to throw a stone or think that everyone's making an absolute killing. But the net numbers are very different. And so I think if you think most real estate agents are a business inside a business, or certainly ours are, and so helping with them, the U Inc. of what are your fixed cover cost ratios? What have you actually got that goes out consistently? What are you making as gross? And what does that actually mean as net by the time that you have all of these things come out? So getting to a point where you could go, well, I need to do 30 grand in GCI a month, or I need to do 2 sales a month in order to get my basis cover costs, and then beyond that, everything is a bonus. And that might be going into my sleeping money, or that might be going into my investment fund money, or it might be going to save towards a holiday, or whatever it is. I think helping people understand what their baseline is, because a lot of people also just spend, like these days with the swipe, you know, no one's running cash, no one's keeping a ledger of it. They're not doing smart things like putting money in all of their pay into an offset account in order to offset against the mortgage, and the amount of time that takes off mortgage repayments,
for sure.
You know, and interest. So I think tweaking small things is really important, but an understanding of exactly where you are and what you need to do, that really helps them so that they don't get into that space. If we do, and inevitably there's always just a time in life where you have a real pucker moment. Either we're going really good and you've overextended yourself and something's changed, or you bought shares or something like that haven't gone as good. Like there's always going to be those learning moments. And if those learning moments sort of create you to go, oh my gosh, I don't know how we're going to come out of this. I think addressing it honestly really early and putting your hand up for help and say, fuck, I'm in a jam here. Like this is a bit like I need some help. And then being able to make those cuts or rip that Band-Aid off really quickly, because a lot of people who've built a level of comfortability go to the point where they're in a jam and they'll go, I know I need to change something, but oh no, I can't sell that car, or I won't sell this, or I'll hang on, and they sort of mask that until it gets worse and worse, and then it gets a really really hard problem. So that the first cuts the quickest ones are the best.
Great point. And this reminds me of the athlete who's at the pro level, but sort of on the cut of making the starting team each week, and they are so focused on process outputs and not inputs. They forget the importance of their routines and their habits building into their performance. And it's the same when we talk with some high-performing agents. I can predict the ones who are going to be most successful in 6 months by their environment they keep themselves around and their routines that they hold. And they're usually the ones that are so focused on process inputs, on great quality calls, great quality engagement, heaps of gratitude. And they usually are the ones that are keeping themselves fit and healthy, eating well, managing their environment around home, all that sort of stuff. You can predict those are the ones. And those are the ones that I'd be looking to recruit within my team, whether it's a leadership team or whatever it is, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of the stuff that I would be saying, the other thing I was also picking up there, my mentor reminded me of this when I had a huge GST bill from my lovely tax account and the payroll superannuation at the same time. It was like, here's a 20 odd K bill, you got to pay, have fun with that one. But when you get anxious about those sort of things, he kind of reminded me that mate, we are being made to be broken again, to be then made again, even better, to be broken again, and then to be made. And when I think of it like that, it's like great stuff is coming very soon.
Yes.
If I can just understand this is all part of the rebuild, but I have to be active and intentional in that rebuild.
Yeah. And stay in the fight.
Yeah.
Like some people pack it up at that point.
Yeah.
Go, oh, I'm out.
Yep.
So staying in the fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, the candle will blow out, but the bushfire fans strong in the wind, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
yes. Mate, there's a great quote that success leaves clues. And, there's lots of agents out there that'll probably outwork you or even better on the phones than you. What are the clues that would be left behind if we were to look at, Sean Hughes' career?
Like there absolutely would be some that would, and then there would be quite a few that actually probably outwork me now. I work smarter now, and I've built that. But in the early, probably the first decade, and it's nearly been 3 decades now. But in that first decade, I don't reckon there was anyone that outworked me.
Yeah, I have heard that. Yeah.
So, and Mum and Gail and others around me at the time just said, like, you can't keep going like this, And I was young and I was, watch me. So, the energy when you've got no kids and no wife and no family and everything like that, and look, in fairness, I tore up a 7-year relationship, and you talk about sort of the learnings, you build and you break something, and you learn what not to do next time. You build and break again and everything. So, like, I tore up one of my first really serious relationships. We've been together for 7 years because my first love was real estate, and it was the business. And even though at the time I think I nobly sort of felt like I was doing it for us and therefore doing it for her, the reality is that no one likes to feel like they've been paid second, that they're coming second in that. And I didn't realise that at the time, again, until it was in the rearview mirror. Yeah. And, I felt like I was putting them first, but really it was, the reality is that I had a first love, which was work. And I was good at it. Like anything, when you put energy and effort into something, you go well and you get results and you feel emotionally, egotistical, rewarded and financially rewarded off that. Why the hell wouldn't you want to do it more? So I just kept on doing it more and more. Like if there was 150 hours in a week, I would have done it. So, and I think that early on in my career, like, I bought my first house when I was 16. So I was also really passionate about the real estate industry and, more importantly, what it could give or do for people who didn't earn a large amount of cash flow and a large amount of money. Mum and dad weren't overly wealthy at all, and they lost the whole lolly back in the early 90s when the crash hit. And real estate was one of those things that helped them get back to financial freedom by investing in it. And so I saw real estate as a pathway for financial freedom. The amount of fireys that I know who don't earn a huge amount of money but have got like 5 or 6 properties and they just bought one here and bought another one there and have invested really well. So I like that and that passion of that. So I think I bought my first house when I was 16 and I was still at school, and it's just been a real great investment strategy for me, sort of, following what you preach, I suppose, as well. And at least you can talk about it firsthand and what clues would be left behind is probably a really harder level of work ethic at the front end. Yeah. The analogy, and you and I have spoken about this before as well, the analogy is probably like if you get in a little tinny in the middle of a lake with 4 really big dudes in it, you've got like 400 kilos in the boat, for instance, and you gun a little 15 horsepower engine on the back, the boat really bogs down on a flat water, even really bogs down. And, the boat has the most amount of resistance. It uses the most amount of fuel, etc. It really bogs in. But once that gets up on a plane and it's shooting along, you use less fuel. There's less resistance, and it just goes. And it's a lot easier to keep that momentum up, and less resistance and everything like that. So, I think the hard thing that a lot of people understand is how long in real estate that boat is in bog down mode and how long it takes to get up and out and onto the plane so that then you can actually get some decent reward for all the energy and effort that you put back. And that's where the stay in the fight probably comes in, because a lot of people do 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and just when it's right about to go good, they just go, and the market shifts in that process as well, and then all of a sudden they're working just as hard, if not harder than they were, to earn less than what they did the year before and everything, and that's disheartening in itself. They're like, oh, I'm turning up, I'm doing all the right things.
Yep.
I've been doing this now for 3 years, and they eject out of what is a really good industry.
Yep.
So,
mate, thank you for sharing that and the vulnerability. I know I know it's I know this industry can be very challenging personally, and I know you've been through your fair share of personal triumphs and tribulations. So thanks for sharing. Appreciate it. And when you say you're working smarter now, are you talking about your team that you've built around you? I know, I've seen Oliver working really well. I can see that you've got this really nice system. It sounded to me like you were talking about better systems.
Yep. Definitely. It's from a company point of view, and the middle management and the great people that we've employed inside the company that are then empowered with their role rather than micromanaged in it, and that comes from having, our whole thing at the moment is good to great and getting the best of the best people inside the business. But then the sales team itself, the Hughes Group sales team, has just gone from strength to strength, and that's probably the same thing, being able to give opportunity to Oliver once he's earned it, and he has earned it. Like, he earned it probably 5 or 6 years ago. He's been with us now for 10 years. And his ability to be a great agent that he shows on the daily at the moment is unbelievable. And then to be able to see him impart that down the line to other team members that we've got at the moment is great. So that expansion of that team of people, I think it's just moved more away from the Superman theory where it was all about me or all about mum or one person. And the Superman model in any business is just so reliant on one person, which is great if you want to spend 150 hours working on it and you want to tear up relationships and marriages or your health and all that sort of stuff. But that just doesn't have a longevity for it. So, and really there isn't a succession plan in it. So I think that multiplier effect has really created great gravitas inside the business at the moment. And that's what I've seen, and it's going from like 42 odd as a team to like 121 as a team. That's come from other people, not so much stepping back, but being able to be comfortable with handing over the reins of their business. And for a lot of individual agents, this is like an expensive business. Like you're earning 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. I think our average GCI at the moment for the company is just shy of $1 million as an average. So, but you got a lot of guys in there who are writing, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 5, or 5.5 million. Like, it's a lot of money to be able to hand the reins over to that, or not so much just, pay it forward, if you will, and take your hands off the steering wheel somewhat. That is a big financial risk if you do it in the wrong capacity, and it can really blow up. So doing that in a controlled environment with those systems and process and everything that Shane's been so good at implementing, like he's just Rain Man. And that's been, I suppose, just the beauty of, again, another partnership and being able to share it. We've got a bit of a plan to be able to have 17 business partners inside the company moving forward over the next 2 years, where we be able to create a pathway for partnership for people to be able to come up so that we can share in doing it. Like, with football and with just any sort of team sport, it's so much better when you do it with other people. Like a golfer is fun for one, but you can go and play football or, someone said the other day, it's like a motorbike's great for one person, but a boat's great for many. And so it's no fun if you don't share it with other people. And you get to see the enjoyment out of them having wins, and you do really cool stuff together. But then the multiplier effect of that, and that's what I've seen in the teams as well. Even you look at the Hardingham teams, and Brad has been a great mate of mine for a long time, but he's been very controlling, and quite set in his ways and everything. And I look at how he's not stepped back, but he's made space for other people inside the team, like Nicole and his son Josh, etc., in order to really come through and not take control, but certainly take some ownership inside that team and allow them the space for them to grow it as well. And I look at that team and what that's done this year at a couple of mil, and they've been 1.2 mil for probably 10 years in a row, in and around that number. That then you almost get a 2xing in a market that's been unbelievably tight with stock. And that's really because of that change in Brad and him allowing that space. But also the confidence, those guys step to the plate in a great way that doesn't make Brad go, oh, I stuffed up by giving them an opportunity there because it all went south.
Looking at your team, if you could have one wish and sort of wave a wand across all your sales agents, what would you wish for?
I don't know. I feel like we've got it at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And,
can you describe what that is?
It feels like everyone's running in the same direction, which is, as much as a real estate can be an individual sport, like it really feels certainly at lots of different times that we all throw on the same jumper and we're all running in that same direction. And doing it together, which is pretty unique in other real estate offices and other companies that I've been in before. It feels very much like an individual sport, and so to create a true sort of team environment, I think is great, because as energy levels change, external forces and stuff like that change, that you need to have that team that really helps high five someone when they're going well and pick them up when they're not and everything like that, and gather around by, genuinely people who care off the back of that. So I sort of feel like it's in a really good space where there's not a great deal of egos, which is quite good, because that can be pretty heavy in the real estate industry. Yeah. And in a lot of work that we've been doing in the East Coast, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, et cetera, at the moment, some of the ego stuff is unbelievable. Not that we're completely free of ego in the West, but it just seems like people are a bit more measured and a bit more down to earth and everything like that, and they're not curing cancer and they understand. But so they're sort of ego free, but for almost like the Chicago Bulls in that era where you've just got the best of the best, the most elite performers who are working together for a common goal and enjoying themselves along the way, and all getting growth and just riding this momentum that we're in at the moment. That's really where it seems to sort of be, which is a great space to be in. So and because of that, it's all super fun, and that creates the fun nature as well. And so everyone's doing really cool things and having great times. We've got some amazing stuff planned for the team. And I think, if I could have dreamed of being part of a company that did all this super cool shit 5 years ago, I'd go, well, that's just an end game position. So to take stock of that now, so while that's happening, and really go, like, this is really where we wanted it to be, and enjoy it whilst it's happening, means that I'm not going to have to look at it in the rearview mirror and go, how good was that time, 5 years ago.
Yep. Yeah, fantastic. And Ben Crowe talks a lot about this with Ash Barty, when she won the French Open, then into Wimbledon, and when she was world number one, just before she retired strategically, which is great. But he talks about the beauty of play in her game. So obviously very competent as an athlete.
Yes.
But when she forgot play, she tightened up and was losing to the 17-year-old at the French Open. Ended up reminding herself, there's a great photo of her remembering through a mantra that she had written down, that play she was there to just have fun, right? And something we talk about with agents and athletes and leaders is that if you're technically very good and you add a play component, like I chose to be here. Yeah. This is everything I wanted. Yes. I'm so grateful to be in this opportunity. And I'm just going to turn up with my best self. Yeah. That play plus competence is like this secret weapon, right? And so as a leader, you're enabling a culture of play, enjoyment, fast pace. Then we add on this whole thing of the Sydney Swans and the All Blacks sporting that rule of no dickheads. Yeah. You've probably heard that one, right? Yep. It's been thrown around a lot, but it means so much. It means we have to build a culture where we can call each other out and we have healthy tension. Yeah. If we see it, we name it, we call it out with respect. Yeah. It's safe and we move fast. Yeah. So we've got no dickheads. We enjoy what we're doing. We're grateful to be here. We chose to be here. Now we can enjoy it. Plus we're competent. Yeah. When you were talking before, I'm trying to package it up neatly into how we repeat this for other businesses.
Well, and that permission to approach thing out of the All Blacks is something that we implement all the time, which is just amazing.
What was that?
The permission to approach. Yeah. So, which is obviously, out of the All Blacks
Mm-hmm.
in that. So, they're basically, once they get permission to
Mm-hmm.
approach, which means that you're in that space where
Mm-hmm.
you're prepared to receive a message, because no point delivering a message or something that you really want to tell someone if they're not ready to hear it.
For sure.
But if you commit to that and say, yes, I'm ready to, you can basically say whatever the hell you want inside a team.
Yeah.
And if you get that permission, and that's, I think, great because
Love that. Yeah.
you, it helps people to have better, honest communication when they're in a position where they're going to receive it. Yeah, and that's was a great thing that the All Blacks sort of used in that. So
Yeah, I try not to. Crikey, it's hard not to like what they did from the early 2000s through, winning in 11 and then 15, losing by 1 point in 07 to them back it up in 11 is so impressive.
I've
But
got
as
no idea. That's rugby, right?
rugby union
Yeah,
to
yeah.
win the World Cup in 11, and this is me as a Zimbabwean,
Yeah.
Australian. So growing up with the All Blacks as you must not like them. But everything that I'm doing as I'm playing, junior Wallabies network is that is the benchmark.
Yeah.
Like when you look at those leaders, they are the benchmark,
Mhm.
And then I do get a lot into that space because when you coach teams to try and change culture or to come and help influence leaders, you're looking at some of these benchmark examples in history where you've been able to get in and change. And they didn't look at the athlete first. They looked at the culture of a team. They looked at the inputs. They looked at the way we turn up for each other.
Yeah.
Creating psychological safety, reinforcing it, really challenging with healthy tension, all that stuff.
And those benchmarks in real estate have really changed. That's something that I've seen in the industry over the last sort of 3 decades, is that those benchmarks have really changed because that whole leadership in the back in the day used to be like, I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing, but just do like me. I can't explain it to you. I'm not going to give you the depth of it. You just watch what I do and just do it. And people would come in from a leadership point of view, run around like a fart in a bottle and just be super busy. So, and I've been guilty of doing this and still am to a little bit of an extent that I just cram so much in that you're almost better off to pick 3 things throughout the day and do them really slowly and really effectively rather than do 7 things throughout the day and half-ass them because you're doing them so quickly. But you feel efficient because you've ticked a lot of boxes at the end of the day. And I think that style of leadership, and show by doing, etc., isn't enough. People look at it these days and go, but I don't want that. That looks chaotic to me. Like, where's the balance in that? I don't want their life. It's not aspirational to be just 100% in work, not paying yourself, paying yourself last and everything like that, spending everything that you earn. I look at it like if I rewind the tape 10, 15 odd years, have so many people that would earn really good money and have nothing to show for it. Like if I said, can you write me a check right now for 20 grand? There'd be so many people that would earn 7 figures and not be able to do that. And yet they're working so hard and they had no time for themselves at all. And, I see the balance in teams at the moment. It's probably more because I've seen it firsthand because so many of them are actually running teams, which gives them the leverage and gives them the ability to take time off guilt-free and stuff like that, where there's more of this balance that's coming in. And that's what's been driving all the team's income. Like I think 78% of our guys are running teams out at the moment, which is a really big volume. And I think 81% of us all had growth last year, in a market that's so devoid of stock. And those numbers don't lie, but it's more around the leadership by showing what they're doing now. The others that are coming through the ranks and being involved in these teams are going, wow, I really want that life now. That guy's like, he's got money, he's done smart stuff with it. He had 8 weeks of holiday last year. He's home at 4 o'clock. Shane and I both got young families and everything like that. And the days are now very different from the days where we get home at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. But yet our incomes have gone up. And so, I think that there's a lot of people that from that aspirational and that leadership by doing point of view look at that and go, wow, that's something that I'd aspire to, rather than in the past there'd be a lot of people go, man, I don't want that guy's life. So it feels like that benchmarking in there has really changed a fair bit.
Yeah, how grateful, how lovely to be able to be in that position. But it takes us back to where we were before, which is a lot of people are in the dinghy at the moment with the heavy load, just under burden, and we can't see what that future looks like, can't get out of it. So where does the agent, how has the agent changed in the last 5 years to become the successful agent these days?
Mm.
What's if we get technical for a sec,
Yeah.
what does the agent do now?
I think the basics are still really there. Like if you just overarching, you talking before about how simple things, if things start to get too complicated, it just gets too much noise. It's so simple. Meet people and speak to them about real estate.
Yeah.
If it just overarchingly, if that is as simple as it is, and the more people that you speak to, and you're nice and not a flog, and you're not pushy and stuff like that, you know, like sales, and they make the mistake of I think of putting real estate agents as a sales agent. Like you can't sell shit as a house. Like you could buy those pair of shoes, and some hot lady might go, wow, mate, you look so good in those shoes, and you might buy them and have a bit of shoe remorse afterwards.
Yeah.
But you're not going to buy a $3 million house or a $1.5 million home just because someone says as an agent that you should do it.
Yeah.
You know, Mike, I reckon this is the one for you. Oh, okay. I wasn't going to make an offer, but now I am.
Yeah.
So the selling really, like, it isn't a sales role; it's a relationship role.
Yeah.
And so the ones that understand that, I think, work on that relationship first, and the more the relationships that they basically put in the pipeline over a period of time delivers more business.
Yep.
So that's as simple as it is. You do the right thing. You give transparent, honest advice. You have tough conversations when you need to, you know, all that sort of stuff. But it is hard, I think, like you say, when you're in that dinghy, because it is it can be a thankless industry, depending on what market you're in. It can be an industry where you do a hell of a lot of work. Like, you know, you look at some of the East Coast markets at the moment, and I've been in those markets before, where you might do 15 home opens on a weekend, and you see 5, 6, 7 buyers, maybe no one buys anything, and you have months and months on end of that. And then the person goes, you know what, actually, I have got a plan B. I'm just going to take it off the market. And they genuinely do. And you just go and I've put all time and energy and got no payday at all.
Yeah.
I've still got bills to pay, but I put the work in without the reward. And that happens repeatedly and over. Eventually you can sort of get knobs on that and go, eject. So it is hard when you're in the boat and you're pushing hard, particularly if the market is against you.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, the most important thing is just to be able to stick with that when it is. It's tough, but it's so rewarding when it gets on the plane.
Yeah.
And it just does get easier and easier. And more so, I think, as the guys that build teams, basically what they've done is they've sacked themselves. And this is where the joy comes back into the job, right? So when you start out, you've got to do all the shit-kicking jobs that, like, you know, just are things that you have to do. You can't employ someone to do. You can't afford to have them to do, but they have to be done anyway. Your own contracts, your own point of signs, your own final inspections, your own everything. And as you grow in your team and you sack yourself from those jobs that you like least but still need to be done, effectively what you end up doing is just doing the best bits of the job. And a lot of people say as agents, oh, I just want to list and sell. And they'll think that they do that, but really they're doing their own copy, or they're doing their own. They're there at when the photographer's there. Yeah. They're doing all these other. They actually added it up throughout the course of a day. There's a lot of additional things rather than just meeting people and negotiating.
Yeah.
And showing people and appraising. So if you do just those things, a lot of agents are in that industry because they're the best bits that they like, and they're in it because they like people generally. And like, it's crazy to say that people like people, but they're in it because they genuinely enjoy being around other people and helping people in that service industry. And so if you're just doing that like 90% of your time or 80% of your time, there's the few spot fires you need to put out every now and then, but then all of a sudden you're doing the best bits of the job, which is the most rewarding as well, because that's the most dollar productive thing that high performers can do. So all of a sudden you get rewarded more and you're doing the best bits of the job. Like, it's, you know, you surf. If you got told that you could just, all you had to do was ride tubes every day, like, how good would surfing be? Wait, hold on. I don't have to duck dive, and I don't have to have a wipeout, and I don't have to deal with crowds. All I got to do is ride the barrel every day. You're just like, oh, how do I do more of this?
Yeah.
And you'd get really good at it, and you'd get better at it, and it'd be most rewarding. So I think that's the epitome of that plane. You know, you get that boat up on that plane, and then it's there. And so that, to me, is worth any amount of being bogged down, 400 kilos in the boat with 15 horsepower on the back. Like 5 years of that is worth a lifetime of being on that plane afterwards.
Yep. Great message. The other question I had around...
You can tell we're like boating, hey?
Yeah. I had to get rid of my boat because apparently I was the worst boat owner in Port Hedland when we lived there, because I would just be seasick every time we went out. I'd put the boys on a great spot and we'd end up getting trout, red emperor or whatever, but I'd be up the front passed out with seasickness.
I'm notorious for seasick. Do you know what it is? It's the driving. If I drive, I'm fine.
Yes.
If I'm a passenger, I'm not.
So
how's that for a control thing?
When I had caffeine, I was useless. And you'd obviously wake up like 4 a.m, get the boat ready, pick up everyone, and you're up the ramp. But I'd have a coffee, and then it would spin the inner ear, and I would become seasick.
Wow.
I got rid of the coffee, had a Snickers bar and a bag of salt and vinegar chips, and like a Pepsi Max on the way out.
Yeah.
And we would drive 100 Ks to go get big fish. I'll be perfectly fine. I could tie knots, big seas, whatever. So I put on about 20 kilos eating all that food. But yeah, there was something in that. But it was good fun. I used to enjoy it. But the last question I had on performance with an agent, right? So I think you'd be different in this space now because of the runs that you have. But you win the opportunity to get in someone's home to present a listing, right? To talk about what you're going to do for them and how you're going to sell. You lose that opportunity.
Yes.
You've then got to walk into another one and you lose that one as well.
Yeah.
Now you've worked your butt off to get in these houses and now you've got nothing. Yeah. Or maybe you've got one in a few days' time.
Yeah.
A lot of people carry that loss feeling into the next presentation.
Yeah.
And something we're working on with athletes as well, when they miss a tackle and they get in their head about being a bad tackler or performance. A lot of us are really motivated by the outcome or extrinsically motivated.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to someone who's lost a couple of listings and we're trying to separate loss and turn it into win as quickly as possible?
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting when you say that as well, because the delay in knowing the loss can be like, you know, because a lot of people sometimes won't even ask for the business on the spot. And the seller on the other side are quite good at not causing an uncomfortable position for themselves as well. So they'll go, "Oh, you're great. Yeah. We'll get back to you in a few days, etc." And so then you're walking around in this state of flux for weeks, months, in order to then be told. It's almost like you've asked a girlfriend out, and she's, "I'll get back to you in a month," and you're just wondering about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you get the no. So you've had a month of questioning, then you get the no, and so then that capitulates all the pain over that last month. So I think if you then have a few of those, and everyone knows as a real estate agent who's listening to this, they always come in a series of, you know, it's great if you get a loss and then you get a win straight after, but usually they come all at once, where you get 3 or 4 losses and you're just like, oh, no. So it is... I think it's extremely hard because it's ultimately like a bit of a, if you break it down, as silly as it sounds, it's a bit of a likability contest. Like you're in there pitching yourself, like, I want you to choose me. And so it can really harm the ego or harm yourself, because particularly if you're an agent who works on personality and you go, "Oh man, I really felt like we gelled. I felt like we got along really well. I was getting a great vibe out of them. I choose them, but then they haven't chosen me, and it means that they've chosen someone else. Someone else is better than me." And like, it just, there is such a resilience in real estate agents from the ones who keep on going, and they've all been there where those things have happened to them. There's not one who's just walked into wins all the time.
Yeah.
And the best ones have had the most amount of losses, the same as the Michael Jordan analogy.
Yeah.
So, you know, there is definitely a level of resistance and resilience that's in there that keeps them going. Yeah. How do they keep doing that? I don't know. I think that they've got to be somewhere deep inside a fact that they know that they're good enough, and even though they didn't win that one, they still know that they're good enough to win the next one, and that's the ones who keep on going. And, you know, hats off to everyone who does that, because it's a challenge, you know.
Yep.
But it also makes you improve yourself. It makes you dig deep. It makes you know exactly what you do and don't stand for, and how you pick yourself up off that. So I think that, you know, that whole story about like tough times make tough people and soft times make soft people. Unfortunately, the world at the moment is built on soft generations everywhere. And, you know, agents are probably the most resilient and toughest out of the lot.
Yeah. No, exactly. And this is and we are in a time when a lot of us have grown up with parents, usually father figures, who have said you're only good when you win.
Yeah.
And we have had to divorce that, which is why I was interested in your relationship growing up in a high performing family. I've met lots of people in high performing families who've grown up with the complete opposite outcome now in life, where they're really loathing of themselves because they're not getting accolades or rewards, so therefore they're no good. And have had to do a whole bunch of inner work, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I would agree completely with you that when you're in that challenge circumstance, good things are coming.
Yes.
And when that mindset shift happens, it's like I am just positioning myself. Chaos is about to come in the essence of greatness. Like I'm about to get overloaded with work.
Yeah.
I better get my systems ready now while I've got a bit of time.
Yeah.
Because when this comes, these 5 or 6 listings next month,
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that. I'm a one-person show. I got to get ready.
Yeah. And you know, like you say that, and you've clearly done a whole heap of work in order to be in that moment and go, that's okay that the world's gone to shit at the moment, because I know that good times are coming. Like majority of people, they're not, you know, in that ability to be able to do that. And also they might not have had enough gone wrong in their life in order to know that the next win is coming. So it's like, I've had a really good run. This one thing or two things have just happened really bad to me, and I'm not equipped to know that just, you know, I'm closer to a next win because of, so it's really hard, particularly in the moment, depending on the gravity of how bad that loss is and stuff like that, or what's happened to them. But, you know, there's some really challenging stuff that happens out there at the moment. Health, you know, kids being sick and you know, losing family members and all this sort of stuff. It's really, really
absolutely.
It's amazing how people can come out of that.
Yeah.
But it's really hard when you're in that spot in order to go,
sure.
you know, my dad's just died, but it's probably for the best.
No.
You know, like, you know, it's going to be fine.
Is perspective for sure. What I would caveat what I'm thinking is you're in that moment that it feels really tough, but we're repositioning mindset to like, this is the setup for something great, but you better work for it because it's about to be great. So you better get things set up ready for that greatness to come. And usually that then ends up in person making more phone calls or positively shifting. I know when I get into that space, I get on the phone more, I get in front of people more, I'm having more coffee catch up, whatever it is. And that turns into let me introduce you to this bloke who's running this business. And, you know, I met a guy yesterday who's running an undies and socks company that's keen to collaborate, do some stuff because, you know, whatever. And I'm just like, hey, I would have never met that guy if I didn't go and meet someone else for a coffee and was at that place. But anyway, it's really cool. It does make me think around agents and performance coaching. Lots of great coaches out there, right? And the work, like there's space for lots of coaching. But what do you think is something that agents could do extra for themselves from a performance coaching mindset perspective?
I think the performance is, you know, when you're talking before about the wins, you know, and working towards the generations that have been given the accolade for the win rather than the work, you know, and even from your Zimbabwe background, like I remember when I went to school in South Africa and we used to get the cane, and it was like, you know, those schools were so regimented because there were great boundaries, and you knew that if you crossed that line, then there was a proper punishment for it, and you know, and proper pain off the back of that as well. So, you know, it was none of this, oh, well, we'll just give everyone who ran the running race an award. Like you either came first, second, or third, or you didn't post, and that was it. And so I think that that's sort of those bandwidths and those boundaries have changed over time, and that's what's caused the weakness. But you know, in celebrating the wins, I think it's important from the coaching point of view and from an agency point of view in order to be able to celebrate the work, because you don't get the win straight away, you know, and it's the same with the loss. You do the presentation, but you don't find out for a month later, so you don't get that straight away. So the best ones, I think, that are doing the best work at the moment are the ones that are celebrating the outcome of the work that they're doing. So it's X amount of calls, and if that's my goal and I do it, then I celebrate there and then for the calls that I did that day. So, and you know, that doesn't seem as much of the win because it's not really the thing that rings the tin and actually puts the money in. And, you know, when you're on a commission base, that's the reality of it. You know, a great mentor of mine back in the day, Mark McLeod, said, Hughes, if I had a gun to your head and you had to go and get a listing and a sale today, by the end of the day, he said, you're not doing any fucking social media posts. You're not going to go and do this. You're going to go and knock on doors or call
Guaranteed you
people
make
and
it.
go and get it. I guarantee you make it. And, again, talking about keeping it simple, that's as simple as it is. And, I think it's so easy to hide around in the fluff of, oh, well, I did this post and I sent this email and all this sort of stuff. But, that stuff doesn't move the needle if you stick to the basics of what you need to do.
For sure.
So, yeah, I think rewarding the outcome of the work rather than the outcome of the sale.
Great. Yeah, and this is where us as leaders as well need to recognize that in our team. So celebrate the process inputs rather than just the outcomes. Of course, this industry is really challenging, much like sport, when you are measured on the runs you make, the wins, the points, the free throws, accuracy, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
That is the outcomes of performance. But I worked with a line-out thrower playing as he was going into Western Force team, and his accuracy for line-outs was terrible. But he was at 65%. And he's a great athlete, thrown his whole life.
Yeah.
Right. Picked for that position, specialist, best, top 50 in the world would have been, type thing. And to throw it 65% means that there's a large percentage of your time that ball's not going straight, which means the opposition gets the ball.
Yeah.
That's the sharpness of that activity. If you get it wrong, you're letting down 14 other mates.
Yeah.
And you're giving them the ball, sometimes in a really sharp attacking position. So we had to get that right. Now, what he did was we changed his whole mindset around the process input. The way you walk up to the line out is so much more important than actually throwing the ball.
Yeah.
We don't even care about throwing the ball. This is like the golfer walking up to the tee box. We don't think about shoulder position, fingers, hands, knees, breathe in, breathe out.
I'm just going hit the
all
white thing.
about how we walk up to the thing and how much we just love being on the tee box and hit the ball.
Yeah.
But how many of us sit there and I know I do. I think about shoulders and chin down and all these coaching cues. And this is that whole golf mindset, which is training mindset, trusting mindset.
Yeah.
We learn to love it, let it go and free it like a racehorse, the hair out and just free it, let it go. But on practice days when you're at the golf box practicing your woods or your irons or whatever particular club, like Dan Carter used to do, 15 kicks and that's it. One particular position.
And, you're even talking about it, like how you were saying before about not overcomplicating things as well.
Yeah.
Like, you're playing golf, go hit the white thing, have fun.
That's it.
And you can overcomplicate it so many times in your head, and you see guys capitulate all the time on the golf course because they're going head down, shoulders back, wait, I forgot to rotate this, etc. It's just so many different things. It's no wonder the ball goes shanking.
Yeah, and Rory McIlroy said that that someone interviewed him after winning the second Masters recently, and he said that he fell back in love with the process. And for me, that means the inputs to playing, not like the game day is a celebration. It's a reflection of the work you've done. And that's the same as the guy running up to his line out. I wanted my whole life to be here playing this.
Yeah.
How much do I love this? Let's release and enjoy.
So what do you think?
And we got him to 93%, by the way.
Did you?
By that season.
Of course you did.
No, it was a great result.
So what do you think that would be in the lead up to the way that he walks up to the lineup, etc., the way that the golfer goes up to the tee box? What do you reckon that would be in real estate, as the lead up to that game day?
Yeah, some of the things we did with a couple of your agents, actually, I won't name names for their own, but they were brilliant with their acceptance of this.
Yes.
Process inputs rather than outcomes. I'm not interested in you winning the listing. I'm interested in how you walk in the door and make the first contact. Yeah. Because we talk about the first 2 minutes. Yeah. And when I'm working with a sporting team, I don't care about the rest of the game. I just care about your first 2 minutes. Yeah. Hands on the ball, execute simple play, and momentum is built on moments. So we're just going to build a few moments early. Yeah. But we did with one of your guys, we did toe work. So if you push your big toe on the ground as hard as you can right now on your right foot, and then we switch to our left foot, push it as hard as we can. We do our right foot again as hard as we can, and left foot again. Now, everything about that moment being dramatic, anxious driving, outcome focus has now gone out of your head and it's gone into your toes, right? Yeah. And so we've just deflated that whole moment. We've taken everything away from it. And that then is backed up with the mantra, like, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. Or, for one of your guys, that was the mantra we came up with. This is everything I wanted. I asked to be here. Yeah. Let's go and release and perform.
Well, and I don't know, I'm sure you've worked with a fair few of the guys, but, Delanzo won't mind us saying his name if that's the one that you're talking about.
It was,
You look at his results, clearly the way that he turns up and he is a very high energy agent. Like he's just an imprinter of energy. That is his listing presentation. But he's one of our guys who's had his best year, personal best year he's ever had. He's still in Europe at the moment. He's like, the balance that is in there, he's in exactly where he needs to be and where he wants to be. He's making more money than he's ever done. He's got more time off. He's got a new lease on life.
Yep.
You look at that coaching and that help. And this is a guy who's a veteran in the industry as well, like he's same as me, nearly 3 decades inside the industry. To fall back in love with it like the Rory McIlroy of golf, etc.
Yep.
And be in such good space. That's what everyone should sort of aspire to. That's success, I think. It's not just a GCI number.
Agree.
It's like he just wakes up every day and he's just fucking happy to go to work.
Yeah.
And because of that, everyone wants to be around him because he's infectious and he's just so happy and everything. And you got people who want to be around you and you want to be around yourself and everything like that. Like, how good's that?
That's pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I aspire to be that.
Yeah.
Mate, I've got a few questions just to wrap up today, just a few rapid fire questions. So I would love to get your perspective on some of these. Complete the sentence for us. High performance to you means what?
Balancing the imbalance.
Okay. What does that mean?
Well, because I'm all or nothing, I can either be completely immersed in one space or in the other. Right. And so making sure that there's a balance of that, I saw that 4-burner concept the other day, which is amazing. So you can be full tilt in work, or you can be full tilt in family, or you can be full tilt in, all those different burners that they've got. Money's one thing, etc. And when one burner goes off, the other one goes up and vice versa. So I know that I'm never going to have 4 burners burning equally. Yep. That's just not me. And I'm not looking to create that, but I want to make sure that once I've had one burner going on too strong at one point, I need to turn that down and put on something else.
Fantastic.
And that's the balance between health and time with family and work and earning money and all that sort of stuff. So managing that imbalance and catching it before it gets to a point where I look in the mirror or pants don't fit or whatever it might be, or I look tired and I haven't had a holiday or I haven't, just catching that before it happens. That's success for me.
Oh, what a great message. Yeah. And because the next question was, what is success to you? So I think we've just underlined that. If you could eat cheese or chocolate every single day for your life.
Cheese every day.
Really?
Yeah.
That leaves more chocolate for me. Fantastic.
I'm savory all the day rather than sweets.
Yeah. And if you were to have an album that just played on repeat every day musically, what would you listen to?
Oh my goodness, this is so hard. I'm such an eclectic mix on music, like old school Tupac, unbelievable, to Snorer Jones, to God, I watched a movie last night and it had country on it. I don't know, it's really hard to pick a genre. Good music is just good music to me. I hear it and I go, I don't like that, or I do like that. And some songs, like the melodies are just, and the music, it doesn't matter which genre it fits into. I'm just like, that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's probably less about the words for me and more about and the lyrics, and it's probably more about the melody. And so I just hear something and I'll go, yeah. So as long as it's not Bluey rolling around in the back of my head, like I get all the time on repeat. Peppa Pig and stuff like that, then what would I have as a single album? Oh God, there's so many. But like it could be Pearl Jam, or it could be, I heard Metallica 1 the other day and I was just like, this is just unbelievable. And then some of the new stuff is just amazing. I've just critically acclaimed of Taylor Swift, some of her songs,
very
but they're
diverse
not others.
listening ear. Yeah. If there's one thing in your morning routine that you could not live without, it is what?
At the moment, it's gym.
Okay.
So it's just it's a habit thing, and it's moved from the gym to sauna and ice baths, which is good. I've been doing it with a mate, and it keeps me accountable, so I know I've got to turn up. Right. But I can still do it on my own. So when he's away, etc., I am a creature of habit, and I'll just get into either a good routine or a bad routine, and that's just a routine at the moment that just has to happen. So every morning it works, rain, hail or shine, and that's been really, couldn't live without that.
Good. One habit that you would say every high-performing agent needs to have in their daily routine, what would it be?
I think being best version of themselves by actually feeling good about themselves. Like, as selfish and as shallow as it sounds, there is an internal feeling that you get when you look at the external and you feel comfortable with that. And so, I know, like, at one point, and it wasn't that long ago, like I was 100 plus GST. So, and I look back on photos now and I knew that I didn't feel good about myself, but you just block that out, etc. And now to be able to look in physically in the mirror and go, oh yeah, I feel good about myself externally, definitely has a mental thing. Not that everyone needs a huge amount of ego, but it actually makes you feel good. And particularly when you work at it in order to get there, there's a sense of achievement, etc. When you earn things and things like that as well. Like, I'm into my cars, but yet I still wash them, and it's, there's an enjoyment in that because I know what it cost me in order to get them. And so there's just an earning of it. So that's what I would say. And that's unfortunately what slips sometimes when you're tired, you work late at real estate and you're putting in the hours, etc. It's winter and it's like, you just want to sleep in and you miss one and then you miss two and everything like that. And the bracket creep, particularly as you get older and older, like I, used to be able to eat whatever I wanted to back in the day, and then all of a sudden you turn 35 and then 40 and then 45 and everything slows down and and you eat like a rabbit for 2 weeks and then you have one cheat day and all of a sudden the 2 kilos that you lost go straight back on and you're just like, oh God, this is
real.
Too hard.
Yeah.
So
but your kids' lunchboxes, leftovers, there's no calories in those. That's okay. You can look forward to the leftover cookie. That's what I tell myself anyway. But last question. I love a bit of timeline therapy with people. So we go forward to a place we're really successful or we take ourselves back. What's one thing that you would say to your 20-year-old version of yourself right now? If you could close your eyes and go back to being 20 years old again, what's one thing you would say?
I would have built a team quicker. I would have bought more property than I did.
Absolutely.
It's just like probably should have bought a few more shares in certain things, some Bitcoin. I probably would have gone earlier with a team. Like really, it was like because it was Mum and I think we always sort of had a bit of a little bit of an inbuilt team anyway. So at least I got to have holidays and so did Mum, and that safety net of not. Of not being able to create a space where you could go away and not miss out. So I've only seen that missing out from other teams who've been not had the team or individual agents that have not had a team. They go away and how disappointed and angry they get on themselves and their family by missing out on those listings in order to be able to learn that from someone else. But that never happened to me, and that because I had Mum, and so that probably created a bit of a safety net there. So the delay of running teams, I look at where we've gone. We always sort of sat at around that 1.2 mil to 2 mil GCI in that range for probably the best bit of a decade and a half. And then all of a sudden, as soon as it's changed and Shane's helped us with our systems and processes, but more importantly, we've brought on teams, it's gone to like 5.5 mil in like the space of a short period of time. So I would have done that quicker. And it's hard when you're not as flush with funds in order both inside the business and outside of the business in order to just go, screw it, we'll just do it. Or that's a great idea and let's just do it. Don't matter what the cost is, because everything is seen as an expense rather than an investment. So it's like, what's this going to cost? Oh God, I put that on that person at $60,000 and or $100,000 or whatever that might be, and like that's a real cost, and you got to come up with it. And all of a sudden, there's more responsibility. I'm responsible now for that person and their family and those meeting those wages, and you're just stacking on pressure. So you add a few mortgages in there, and all of a sudden you got a lot of pressure before you start at 6 a.m. in the morning. And that, unless you're ready to lean into that, that can be a little bit like confronting. and paralyzing. But it's so hard, like you were saying before. You know, if you're in the middle of a loss, to see this as, oh, this is going to be, it's going to be okay. We're closer towards the next win. It's hard when you're in that space of counting dollars and everything's, you know, important, to not see it as a cost, to see it as investment blindly and just go, I'm doing it for later.
Yeah. Yeah. But look at you now.
Yeah.
And that's called the Valley of Despair. And it's actually a curve that is a model that people need to realize, that we all go through the Valley of Despair at some point. The only way out is through it, which is, you know, you start off with that blind optimism, like this is going to be amazing, I'm going to be rich. And then you have to enter the valley. The trick is, how short can you spend?
Yes.
How narrow and short can you spend your time in the valley before you come out the other side into the
valley is inevitable. That's the whole thing. Like, you know, even if you're on the mountain at the moment, the reality is you have to have a valley, because you don't sit on the mountain forever. And if you did, it'd be boring anyway. Yeah. So it's inevitable to have the valley.
There's a great last thing I'd hear is a great saying that we like to put the ambulance at the top of the hill and not at the bottom. In other words, let's try and predict these things early, so we can start to make clever decisions around our leadership, our team, our culture, and those sort of things, rather than waiting for the bad stuff to happen. Yeah. So we then have to pick up the dead bodies.
And even like you're thinking about that, just, you know, this is where you're so great with the psychology side of it. Like having a discussion about that at the top of the mountain effectively, and the ambulance up there, at least when it happens, you're way more prepared for it. Like, you know, just like, oh, well, I thought that this was going to happen, or I knew that, you know, not that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy and you want to, but like when it happens, you're so much more prepared for it. So it's probably going to create a shortness in that valley because you're already prepared so much more for it.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about managing risk, and risk has upside, downside, and you're just optimizing upside by keeping it at top rather than trying to mitigate downside. You know, someone falls, you're trying to save their life rather than just, you know, picking up someone who's passed away, for example. And having spent 20 years in risk, advising exec committees on we need to invest here or not, I guess that makes sense to me a lot more than others. But from a performance perspective, that just means we're trying to see things early, and put our feet in front of the bad thing from happening. But mate, we'll close it there. I know you're very busy.
No.
And you've been extremely generous with your time.
A pleasure.
I'm very grateful for you being here, and I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has taken away a bunch of notes that they can apply for themselves. If people wanted to get a hold of you, is there a way to touch base or to follow the work you're doing?
Yeah. Phone, email, just reach out, whichever way. So, no, I appreciate you having me here. It's great to be here, mate. You always make me look really smart just being beside you.
Don't be silly. Yeah.
So, but smarter than I actually am. So, but no, it's great. You know, the work that you've been doing with the guys has been having a clear outcome, and so I think it's good for people to be able to stand back and look at it and help have some external perspective that isn't just scripts and dialogues and stuff like that. So much of it is them and how they turn up and how they process wins and losses and everything like that. It really is that old book of You Inc. And you know, it's so much of the real estate industry is just scripts and dialogues and systems and processes and everything. And so that has an important part to it, but it means nothing if you're not there yourself and turning up and performing at the best version of you. So well done.
Brilliant. Well said. Couldn't have said it better. Awesome, mate. Thanks so much.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you so much again, Sean, for your time and generosity. I really appreciate it, and it has been an honor to sit across from you and listen to some of your experience. I hope a lot of the listeners have taken away something, and the only thing I ask is that you build in some time into your calendar this week to go and apply some of the lessons that you've just learned during this episode. Maybe it's one thing or two things, but that intentional effort will be the thing that shifts the dial for you. As always, I don't ask for anything else other than if this podcast shifted you in any way, please pass it on to someone else. That is a great way for us to organically grow. Also, I love the questions and comments in the sections for the podcast or on the Instagram page, on Spotify. Please share those. We read those and we can build them into future episodes for deeper learning. I hope you took a lot away, and I look forward to sharing the next episode. Thanks.